Hey, Dave Knight here from 123daytrade.com. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. Happy New Year. The title of this video, and I've given this a lot of thought um, since the last time that I came on YouTube and decided to talk. It's why do we trade, or more specifically, why do we day trade? Now, I'm going to share why I trade and why I day trade with you. But until you can understand your why, then it's really difficult to move forward in your trading business. And I'm opening up my heart and soul today. So um, obviously, I know that my haters will love it, and they'll like the video maybe and or dislike it, or who knows what they'll do. But yeah, I know. Can you believe it? I got my share of haters, especially one person that likes to hate every video and dislike every video that I do. So I recognize that at least I have one person. Now, Jim Rohn, when he was living, he used to tell a story that there's 10 really mean, hateful, just outright, just really mean people in the world. And he would go on to say, I just met one yesterday, but the problem is that they seem to move around a lot. So I say that in jest because I understand that there's people that don't like me, and I recognize that. But I put them into that shell of I don't give a shit if they like me or not. So you got to understand that I could care less if that person hated me, disliked me, or whatever. I mean, because they got their own issues that they're dealing with. I would be more concerned if my mother hated me than I would ever be concerned with any special person that I may have offended or pissed off. Because when you listen to this might be help you understand my mindset and where I'm coming from. So I think the only way that we can understand why we trade or why we day trade is to go back, at least for me, is to go back and understand why I got started in trading to start with. And this goes back to my childhood. I was beaten as a child and physically abused, and never told that I could amount to anything. And and my father or my dad, I never heard the words "I am sorry" or um, or or anything in that relation that would be anywhere near that. Now, I've come to grips with it a little bit better as time goes on, because his dad was even worse than my dad was to me. So um, I made up my mind that the cycle of abuse would stop with me. Um, and crazy that lives inside my head, believe me, the crazy that lives inside my head is a constant fight. And I had to pay a psychologist $75 an hour to tell me that my dad is my issue. Duh. Um, or was my issue. So anyway, as we grew up, I was one of three brothers, and I'm the oldest of three. My middle brother, who I love dearly, even though we don't get along very much sometimes, and obviously I love my little brother as well, who's always the tallest and the smartest of the bunch. Now, both my brothers I'm extremely proud of. They both have MBA degrees, or excuse me, my littlest brother has an MBA and a CPA degree, and my my middle brother has his master's degree as well. So I'm getting a little choked up here. I'm very proud of their accomplishments, especially my middle brother. My middle brother had a learning disability growing up, and I see that in relation to my youngest child, who has progressively got better through the education system, because hopefully we recognized it quick enough that he can excel. We can see the excelling in his educational in the fifth grade that he is in now. So I hope that we caught that early enough. And anyway, so now why do I tell you this? I tell you this that at one point in my middle brother's life, the doctor sat down, the psychologist sat down, or whoever it was, I don't know, I was still young at the time. I was probably 8 and he was 5 or 9 and he was 6, and told him that why my middle brother acts out the way he does is because he can't handle the abuse that you are dishing out to him. You've got to stop. You've got to stop. And he did. And to my dad's credit, he stopped. Now, going back to a story about with my dad's dad, my dad bought a 57 Chevy, red 57 Chevy. Later in life, my dad gets a 57 Chevy, and it's his baby, it's his pride and joy. Now, I didn't understand why he got it until it was explained to me why he got the 57 Chevy. When my dad decided to get away from his dad, and he joined the Air Force, and he went into basic training, and he was stationed in Missouri. Now, his 57 Chevy that he bought himself, my dad's dad, or my buddy as we called him, he sold it. He sold my dad's car and took all the money from him and never gave him a penny of the money of him that. Now, later in life, I was given things, and not to say that's good or bad, but my dad would shower, instead of saying he was sorry, he would shower me with gifts. Like he would give, so that I didn't lack for anything. Let's put it that way, okay? And not to say we were rich and wealthy, because we weren't. We were just, we were in that middle class of individuals that unfortunately the world's trying to eliminate today, right? It's either have and have nots, and it's even worse than it was when I was a kid growing up. So I understand that, manufacturing jobs and all that. So anyway, I'm getting off the subject. So now let's go forward. When my dad was told that he wasn't allowed to mentally and physically abuse his middle son, I was the object of the abuse from that point forward. And I took off 500 and something miles away when I went to college, just to get away from him. Now, the problem that I think that happened when I left, my little brother was I was 18, he was like 10 or 11 at the time when I left, I think, or 9 or 10. So when I left, I was the buffer that stood in front of Dad and my brother Dane. But after I left, it was Stephen, my little brother, who was the buffer between Dane and Dad. So my little brother ended up getting all the abuse that I got as a kid as well. So like for instance, one of the things that I laugh about and I joke about, but it really negatively impacted me. My dad would say things like, "Stand still so I can beat you," and he had a belt in his hand. I would run around. The reason I would run around like a madman and a crazy person was that I figured if I could wear him out before he actually got a hold of me, I would receive less hits, and it was true. If he got a hold of me in the very beginning of time and he was the person that could just beat the living daylights out of me at that point. But if I wore him out before he caught me, I'd only get like 2 or 3 smacks because he was overweight, he was unhealthy, he was a diabetic to top it off. But he could only physically hit me 2 or 3 times before he just wore out and let me go. So that's why I would run around like a crazy person, like a chicken with a head cut off, so by the time he would catch up to me, I wore his ass out before. Now, later in life, the craziness about this whole thing, when I was about 20, 21, maybe I was a little older, I forget, and I was in my 20s, in my early 20s, and he smacked me upside the head again, and that was the last time he hit me, by the way. But before that, let me go through. I have had my nose broken 3 times in my lifetime, and 2 times was from my dad's fist into my nose. And by the way, he never said he was sorry for breaking my nose. This day, I have I have to I snore at night, so I wear a mouth guard, and I've been told that that was the reason behind it. Now I broke my nose from his Vanderbilt ring, by the way, that he would wear on this finger. It was his middle finger. He had his Vanderbilt ring, and he just popped me with it, and he left a V on my nose from hitting me so hard. So he broke my nose, um, and then I had my nose broken through football one time, but I think that was because of the other time that I got hit. And the third time, he hit me again and broke my nose. And at that point, I was able to pop it back in place. So the third time that I had my nose broken, I knew how to pop it back in place, or at least I knew how to. It was dislocated, and I could move it back. Anyway, so I tell this story because, you got to understand where you're coming from to understand sometimes why you do what you do. Now, why do I day trade? And I'm getting to it, but this is just me opening up my heart, because I think that, everyone has their own story, right? Everyone, and this isn't easy for me to sit down and just finally admit to all the shit that's gone on in my life. But I just want to get out. So at age 20, my dad hits me for the last time. Why? Because when I was 20, I think I was 22. Let's go with, I was in my 20s. So why? Why did he hit me for last time? Because I was stronger than him, finally. And I put him up against the wall. I lifted his ass off his feet. And I told him if he ever hit me again, I was going to fill in the blank. My two brothers grab a hold of me at this point, because both of them are living at home. My middle brother still hadn't graduated from high school, I believe, and my little brother hadn't obviously graduated as well. So they both grab me and pull me back and say, and keep me from physically abusing my dad the way he abused me. So, but the crazy thing about that is this: the closest I ever got to an apology from my dad in his lifetime came in that environment, where he said to me, after it was all said and done, "I respect what you did there, son." That's as close as I ever got to an apology from my dad, that I can ever remember. He never said he was sorry. He just, but, like I said, he came from a cycle of abuse. Now, did my dad's dad come from a cycle of abuse? Probably. It's probably been transferred up through to me. And I've made it a point in my lifetime, as best as I can, knowing the crazy that resides inside my head, not to beat my own children, to obviously discipline them, put them in timeout, take their devices from them, but not physically punching them in the face and abusing them, because of the environment that I grew up in. So, the cycle of madness stops with me. That's what I've told myself. The cycle of madness stops with me. Do I lose my cool? Do I lose my temper? Do I lose everything that's going on? Yeah, man, I blow my top, and it's not a pretty thing. But I punch a wall. I throw my cell phone. I throw my computers. But it's just stuff that I can replace, right? Or I can patch over a hole in the wall, or I can, pad up my fist, and I can go punch a dummy bag or something, So, another why I took karate, why I went to that direction, and take it out. And I figured out that I would, like a water boy, I would see my dad across the way, and that wasn't a good thing, because then I was taking out my abuse on someone that didn't deserve it, right? So I stopped that eventually, because I saw myself not being able. So yeah, I've got the knowledge, but I saw that until I can control the demon that lives inside of me, I didn't I didn't deserve to be in that kind of environment, because I would go in just strictly to spar to beat up the black belts, um, and I did. Not to say I was strong, I just played dirty. There's no rules. I played street fighting, and they were playing, their boxing and kicking. And if I got them on the ground, it was it was unrestricted. I'm beating the living daylights out of you and hitting you as fast and as furious as I can before 3, 4 black belts pull me off. Um, Not that there's anything good about that, because there wasn't. Anyway, so I was told that but on the one side, I was told that I was never told that, I'm sorry for this, or this, that, and the other. So when I went to college, my dad said that I'm only going to pay for your education if you get your degree in accounting. Um, I'm like, Dad, I don't want to be an accountant. He says, well, I don't care what you want to be. You're going to do what I tell you you're going to do. And this is the best thing that you can do for you and help you in your life later on. I'm like, but I don't want to be an accountant, Dad. It just went over one ear out the other. He knew better. And, what I found out later from the psychologist is that I detest type A personalities. Why? Well, I think it's pretty easy right now. My dad was a type A personality, and later in life, I see this transferred through me as I watch my kids in sports, that I have to be very careful about type A coaches that are coaching my children right now, because I have a hard time dealing with them. So I stand back and I coach a 7 and 8s, but knowing that I would never have a type A personality on my staff out there as well. So, but I've got better over the years on that. So understanding the way you are helps you learn more about yourself as a trader, as it relates to your life, and a lot of all these things. So all this is just me, and you've got to determine what makes you tick, right? I mean, this is what makes me tick as a trader, because I was never told that I'll amount to anything, that I've got to do it this way. If I could go back, if I wanted to go to school to be a history teacher and coach football, that's pretty much all I wanted to do. I was told that no, you've got to do it this way. So my dad's view was, it's my way or the highway. Follow this path. This is the path that's laid out for you, and either follow it or don't. If you don't, there's no money coming. Well, I finally quit school after my second, third year, I forget, and I'm not going to get into the details of the why, other than, I didn't want to be an accountant. I didn't want to get my business degree. I didn't want to go that direction. I came out of school, I quit, stayed out for 2 or 3 years. Eventually, I moved back to Pennsylvania from Tennessee, and I take a job and actually physically start working for my dad, in real estate management and leasing, and I grew up around apartments, and living in them and fixing them up, and all that real estate. And that's helped me later in life. So I'm good about some of the things that I've learned. Um, so I was in charge at one point in my life of 200 and something students in one building. I was the manager of these students, and they were hard and unruly at times, but that was one of my jobs that I had at that point. Um, they would knock out walls to put two walls together, and so that they'd have interconnecting rooms, and they'd put things in front of it so you didn't know. I mean, lots of crazy things went on inside that environment. But it made me want to go back to school. And my dad had said, I'm not paying for you to go back to school, although you can work for me and earn your own money to go back to school and do whatever you want. I'll pay for you to go to Pitt, but I'm not paying for you to go anywhere else. So I ended up going to a semester at Pitt, hated it, left. I only had 36 hours transfer in from there of the 90 that I had completed. Um, and Duquesne University um, took over, I think, 68 or 60 something credits. So I ended up going to Duquesne and finishing up at Duquesne from going to 565 miles from away from him at Lipscomb. And I would walk back and forth to school. And it was about, 15, 20-minute drive, a walk to go across town. I was living in downtown Pittsburgh at the time. And I would walk back and forth. And I paid my way through the last 2.5 years of my college at Duquesne University, something I'm very proud of. My dad, although he gave me the job because he needed me in some way, because he wanted someone that he can trust, and inside of an environment that he didn't have a lot of control, he figured he could get some control by having his children work for him, I guess is the way I look at it now as I look back at it. Um, and he obviously could control me as well in that environment. So, but the money that I got paid, in a way, paid for my education that I went to Duquesne. Now, he didn't physically, out of his own money, pay me, but the job that he gave me allowed me to go back to school. So I understand that component, and I went through and I finished my college education, and I went back, and I could have went in and got my degree in teaching at that point, but I didn't. I figured the only way that I needed to get out from underneath working for him was to get out as quick as I could out of school. And the quickest way that I could get out of school at that point is finish up my degree in accounting, because obviously what he would say in the future, you made your bed, now you have to lie in it. So I had made my bed, now I have to lie in it. So I finished up. But every history course, every elective course that I could take, I went history. Every one of them got A's. Every one of them I would get an A, get an A, get an A. If it was something that dealt with accounting, B's were fine. If I could get a B, and in the intermediate accounting, I ended up with C's. I hated intermediate accounting. It was the most boringest thing that you ever could physically go through in lifetime. I liked cost accounting. I liked financial. There's different things that I did like. I like the financial. I like statistics in that class because it was kind of dealing with history. Anything that I could relate back to history, I kind of liked it a little bit. But having to put myself into a square peg trying to go into a round hole, I've always, boom, boom, boom. I just never could ever fit into that round hole that they wanted me to be in. I didn't like, because I believe that education takes the creativity away from you. The imagination and the creativity and things like that you're drowned to be this person that you don't really want to be, right? I didn't want to be an accountant. Hell, I don't even like to balance my own checking book. Thank God for online banking today, because if it wasn't for online banking, the only reason I don't balance my checking book, when I write checks out, the only check that I write out is I just write the amount of the check and I put it in. It's just a check register to me. Everything else, I don't even keep track of it outside of for the taxes. And then I use Quicken and the other things, and it just boom, 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 figures out the numbers, get in there, boom, 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 I'm done, and I get my tax return or what money I owe. So the electronic environment's really come on. I'm thankful for that. Along those lines, day trading wasn't you weren't able to do it earlier until the speed of the environment kicked in to so there was a gap. When I first started trading, there was, I would call into the broker, hey, I want to be long or short at this, da, 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 and he would get, okay, he'd call back, okay, you're filled at this. And then I had to physically pick up the phone and, yeah, I want to get out of this trade, and so there was a delay. And that delay, whether it was me picking up the phone from when I saw I wanted to be in, 10 seconds before I could get in, even though, I had speed dial and all that stuff, and picked up, got the order, from the order time I wanted to be in, 10 seconds can be an eternity in the day trading environment, right? Um, and that has moved down to just milliseconds now, right? So why is day trading more better, I guess, more better, for lack of a better way of saying it, is because the speed of execution has allowed us to get in where I would see something. So even back then, I saw something that, if I go back and look, that if I would have got in at my point, I would have stayed in the trade more times than not. So, it was about, I guess if I would have moved to Chicago and been a floor trader, and sat on the floor right there, I would have learned, and had some kind of chart system or whatever, or understood pivot points or some other things that I use. In this life, um, as I'm moving forward, I would have been successful maybe in that environment as a floor trader, because I see the success that I have now in the environment that I am in the day trading. And I progressed into day trading because I couldn't day trade earlier in life. I positional trade, and then I swung trade. And then now, since we've finally got the environment where I don't have to hold overnight, I do day trade, and it's for obvious reasons for me, as I don't want to carry a position in the futures market. If I want to hold a position, I want to in more longer term investments like REITs and real estate investment trusts, for those who don't know REITs. So the things that I know in later in life, earlier in life, I invest in a more longer terms. One of the things, I don't think I really want to share that, but so anyway, so why do we day trade? And for me, it was, I never worked well with others. And any time that I determined a boss was a type A personality, it just we didn't mesh well together. Whether it was a man or a woman, it didn't really matter, because you could get women that were type A personalities, just like you could get a man that would be a type A personality. In fact, you know, I don't work well with others. I don't work well with an environment that has people that are in charge. And most businesses, as you well know, have a type A personality that runs the company, right? More times than not, there's someone in that chain that I personally would despise and hate. And I didn't understand it until later in life, until the psychologist that I paid $75 an hour explained to me that all of this came from the abuse of the dad, of the father figure in my life that I went through, and why you don't work well with others, and why this happened. And to finally hear that, and I was in my 30s at the time, or maybe early 40s, I forget. I think I was in my early 40s at the time, and my mom never wanted to hear that, because she obviously came from that kind of abuse as well. Because, to my dad's credit, his last, after he retired from working for the man, and he retired around 55 years old. From 55 to when he died at 61. I wish that I had that person as my dad growing up. He still never said he was sorry for anything that he ever did or said or whatever. But he was a mellow person that finally just mellowed out. Maybe it was, me running him through the ringer, and then the other kids, and then, or the grandkid that came in later on, he just finally mellowed out. That's the dad that I remember now. So the last 5 or 6 years that I kind of got to know him a little bit better, that's the person that I wish that I would have grown up with, that kind of person. And I've tried to be that kind of person to my children that I remember my dad being in his last part of his life, rather than the way he was when I was growing up. Now, I say all this just to say that sometimes you have to determine your why you do something to understand why you do it as well. So for me, being a day trader is an essential part of my life because, you know, I don't have the man or the boss that I'm working with. I don't work well with others. I detest type A personality types. Um, and go on and on and on we could go down. You know, any time that I put myself into in a work relationship, in a work environment, when I sold cars part of my life, my sales manager was a type A personality, and me and him would get into fights as well. He was like, "How dare you leave that person? And if you walk away with another guy coming and you let them leave without me meeting them, it'll be the last time that you'll work for me." Blah blah blah. So I would take the people that I'd say frankly, I'd say straight out, my boss is going to really ride me hard if I don't introduce you to him. And he would like deliberately try to go through things and to get a cigarette break or whatever. And I would go haul him down and drag these people with me through the maintenance bays, through these things. And I would go over there just out of spite to get him. Hey, this is so and so. Wanted you to meet him. Wanted you to meet so and so. And I finally figured out that this wasn't working, right? So I stopped that, and I got into insurance, and insurance was kind of cool in one way, but what I found out when I sold insurance is that, for instance, for every 10 policies that I would write in the environment that I was in, um, I'd get 4 deadbeats and 2 would stop paying. So I would only be collecting on 3 of them, but they would give a 9-month advance, and I'd end up having to pay a lot of the money back. I'm like, yeah, it's great getting the 9-month advance coming in, but having to pay that money back, it's like, well, what the am I doing here? I'm I'm spending my time, my energy to sell these policies, and the only people that are making money right now is the dude that's on the other end of the company that's running the freaking insurance companies, right? So I'm like, and that's probably half my problem is I'm too smart in some ways, and I've said that before. I wished I was dumb and that I would go and do, and nothing against people that work the 9 to 5 jobs and that are cracking out. I sometimes when I say that, I just wish that I didn't have the mindset of the independent spirit that was in, that I didn't care and I would just work that 9 to 5 job and go to work and come back, go to work and come back, and just just be a soldier or an ant, and do my job and just be. But I was never happy in that environment, and that's me. That might not be you, but that is me. So I don't say that to offend you. If the working the night, because I firmly believe that anybody can be a trader from any walk of life, from any color, race, religion, you name it. I've seen people succeed in this environment from all walks of life. But it's true. 90% that go in this environment fail. Now, I've put the quotes inside this. It's the 90%, and I fail. All of us fail as traders. There's not one person. It's 100% failure rate in trading. The 10% that make it through are the ones that don't quit. That's the ones that make it, that persevere, the persistent, the people that read, think, and grow rich, and better themselves in the self-development area. This. Why do you trade? Why do you day trade? Well, you got a reason behind that. You've got to find that reason that you do it. I know why I do it. I do it because I don't work well with others. I don't work well in an environment that has that type A personality somewhere in that business structure. So that's why I'm a trader. I am the black sheep of my family. I march to the beat of a different drummer, and I always have. And until I figured out why I've done that, and it took me later in life to figure it out. It now I understand what pushes me, what drives me, what makes me, get out of bed in the morning, as I would say. It's that. It's not now since my dad's passed away. I'm not trying to prove him that look how great I am now, because I in his lifetime he saw me succeed to the point that he's like, oh, you're doing pretty good at this. I don't understand what you're doing, but you're doing pretty good at this. But I've been like the Apostle Paul or Peter, whoever said that, I know what it's like to live with a lot. I know what it's like to live with a little. I always say I like to live with a lot better. But that environment. So I know what it's like to live on both sides of the spectrum when it relates to your trading. And the reason that I do what I do is because I'm passionate about it. I love what I do. I love seeing other people succeed in this environment that is frankly the toughest, easiest money that you will ever make in your lifetime. So why do you day trade? Why do you trade? Find the reason behind why you do it, and it'll help you solidify and move forward and hopefully continue down that path. And it's a path. We each go down this path. You need to find that Superman that lives and resides inside of yourself and become that person when you're trading. To be that person that I'm not going to let this happen. If this happens, I'm out. I know where I'm getting in. I know where I'm getting out. And all before I even push the button that's on this particular, so I got my trading plan down. I'm going to cut my losses short. I'm going to let my profits run. I'm going to take profits on the ride. I'm going to use risk management and trade management and money management. I'm going to be completely disciplined. I'm going to be that super person as it relates to trading. I'm going to take all the mental crap that's in my head and I'm going to throw it out, right? All of the shit that resides in me, the failure that I am, the failure that I've been, and all the stuff that just pisses you off, I'm checking that at the door. I am a trader and I'm good at it. And I can succeed at this. And I will succeed at this. I do think, and I think correctly, and I will grow rich. So the power of belief, right? The power of prayer and belief. And I would encourage you, if you've never read the Bible, I would tell you to read Mark 11 and read that chapter, and especially the chapter that talks about the prayer, like you walk past this. Now, if you can move a mountain, if you believe enough, you can move this mountain. You can say to this mountain, move over here, and it'll move. Now, are you physically going to move a mountain? No. But it's that mountain that stands in front of us, right? It's that mountain that's in front of you that's stopping you from being successful, that's stopping you from doing the things that you want to accomplish in your life. Everybody has that mountain that blocks us, right? That makes us blind. Now I can see, right? I'm blind and now I can see. You've got to be able to get past that in your life. You've got to be able to beat the mountain so that you can see, to move it out of your way. And there's a formula that goes into that. The first formula, it's the power of prayer, right? And our meditation or whatever you like in this kind of environment. But what is it? It's the faith that you've already received this thing before you even start. It's the belief that is so strong that you can see it physically in your mind and in your eyes before you open your eyes. It's there. It's strong. It's the faith that's there to know that it's already in your possession. There's a lot of insight that Napoleon Hill brought across in his book, Think and Grow Rich. I would highly, highly recommend, if you've never read that book before, to pick it up, get it on your Kindle, get it in your, and read it. Read it every year. Every year, I pick up this book and I read through it. And every year that I've read through this book, I don't know, you'll see me colors going across the screens, right? Every year that I've read this book, I take a different highlighter and I go through it. And this last time I went through, I actually was writing things on my break. Let me find a page. I was writing things on my break about Think and Grow Rich on, I would highly recommend to get the 21st century edition. Go to Napoleon Hill. I think it's nahill.org, nahill.org. I'll put the link down below. to where to get this. You want this one, the 21st Century Edition. I'm pretty sure you probably find it on Amazon. The reason that you want it is that it's got current comments about the environment, about where we are in relation to bringing his knowledge to current day. So this was written in the 1920s, 30s, whenever it was written. And let's see, the original, whenever this book was written to start with. Plus, it's purple. Purple is a is purple is the royalty color, right? So I think there's a reason why they put it in purple, right? Let's get into that. That's another story for another time. But I just wanted to share with you, why do I trade? So why do we day trade? Why do we trade? You've got to come to that understanding and reasoning to ever, in my humble opinion, become successful as a trader. And I'm nowhere near where I want to be as a trader. I'm at Top Step Trader right now, and I have a redevelopment. I've passed 4 times, getting ready to pass my 5th time, and funded. I'm in that environment because that's where I need to be, to put rules upon myself that, this is, because that's what I need. You might be not needing that. You can have your own futures account. I want to take the money out of Top Step Trader and put it into a futures account. So that's why I'm here, and I've got the ability to, to hold out, and I get paid a little through the website. I get paid a little from investments of the past. But nothing's enough. I'm struggling right now to get from point A to point B. But the knowledge that I understand, and the VTS concept that I've come up with, the volume tick study that I've there's so many things that I've learned over the years that I can cut your learning curve in half or 3/4 of the way with the knowledge that sits and resides up here now. And that's why I use CTS Futures and the T4 platform. I really don't help people that aren't in that environment further than just answering basic questions, because until we can talk apples and apples, it doesn't pay for me to try to explain why the volume spikes work a certain way when you're working with NinjaTrader or Trade Navigator or Think and Grow Rich, Think and Swim, and all the other things that are out there. Freudian slip right there, right? I use the T4 platform. I teach people that I do coach have to use the T4 platform through CTS Futures. I don't train and teach anyone that's not in that environment. I leave the mental shit that's happened in my life at the door, and I don't move it to you as an individual that takes on coaching with me one-on-one. I try to help you determine that why. And maybe this has become recommended viewing now for the coaching students, to go through this, to understand where you are right now, and then transfer that into what you want to become in your life. All right. I could go on and talk for hours and hours on this subject, but as I get prepared to start my year of trading, which hopefully Monday or Tuesday of next week, it will be the beginning of my trading year, January 9th, January 10th. I told funding at Top Step Trader I'm ready to start. I want to start my redevelopment, and that's where I am right now. I'm in the redevelopment opportunity, and I'm getting ready to start, into that redevelopment and move forward. And so only one account this time to be able to work with. So when they do give me the login instructions, I'll have that just one account to work with at this point. So that'll be good. And I'll, and along those lines, I've learned a few things about me as I reviewed my trading year, as I would encourage you to do every year that you're going and take that time off. You didn't hear from me for over a week right now. What was I doing? Well, I certainly wasn't watching and paying attention to YouTube, and for any of those that or any of the other social environments. I didn't email, I didn't broadcast, I didn't post, I didn't do anything. So from like I think December 24th, 5th, 6th, 27th, I think was the last time anyone ever heard anything from me from that point, you know. So I took some time away from the market. But being away, I reviewed my journals, I reviewed Think and Grow Rich, I reviewed some of the things that I is successful as far as my trading went on, and now I'm looking to put that to work for me as I move forward. Every year that we learn from is a year, and if that doesn't kill you, what only makes you stronger in the end, right? So as a trader, the knowledge that I've gained up and through all the years that I've been in it, 30 plus years now that I've been in this environment. So now, you know, I'm an even stronger individual than I was when I was previous. And there's a book that I'd highly recommend to put on your Kindle or your device or buy it is I think it's called Boy Plunger. I forget who wrote the book, but it's a story about Jesse Livermore, and I'm still working my way through it. But it is just an awesome story to see how many times you can fail and succeed. And this guy that made millions of dollars and lost millions, and made millions and lost millions. You see that over and over and over again, the feast and famine of traders. And I've done the same damn thing. I've never made millions, but I've made $500,000 here. I've made $750,000 on another time. I've made $250,000 another time. I've made 45,000 in 1 month of trading before in my past. I've made six figures on many different years in my lifetime as a trader. But then I've also lost a hell of a lot of money and had to learn a lot more about myself along the ways as well. So the quicker that you can learn to feast and famine, and because we share so many things in common that hopefully you weren't abused as a kid. But outside of that, we share so much in common as it relates to things that we want in life, as it relates to trading and why we do what we do. So yeah, we're in a very specific niche, trading. I'm even in a further niche as it relates to that. I'm in futures trading. And now I've put myself in a niche upon a niche in the crude oil market. I specifically only trade the crude oil futures market as a day trader. That's how I've progressed myself. And you think, well, no, you've taken things away. No, I've progressed myself down to just one market and become very good at just one thing. And that, as it relates to going on to the website and you see, hey, what's this one thing? I've just kind of told you what that one thing is. But along those environments, you understand that through the funnels that I put together on at 1, 2, 3 day trade, the things that I put out there, I don't put it out there for me. Well, I guess I do. I do put it out for me, so I learn from it. But I really put it out for you. I put it out for you to understand why I do the things I do, but more importantly, to help you get to where you want to be in your life a little quicker. All right. Hopefully it won't take you 30 plus years to get to where you want to go. You can do it in 5 years, or you can do it in 10. Name that tune, right? Hopefully you can do it inside 2 years. But you've got to give yourself the opportunity. You've got to be able to accept that you're going to fail in this business, and you're going to fail more times than you succeed as a trader. Until you can recognize that, until you can finally say to yourself, it's okay to fail. It's okay. But get yourself up off the ground again, right? Get yourself physically up out of your chair and say it's okay. I failed. It didn't kill me. This will just make me stronger. Learn more. Learn more. And maybe I'm, like I said before, maybe I'm just a stepping stone along your progression of being a trader. I'm happy for that. I'm happy for being just one step in this ladder, or the steps that helps you move to the next level. I've helped other people get a lot more money than I ever dreamed to make in trading, and I was just one step in their progression. So God bless, take care, and I'll see you on the next video that I put together. Why do you trade? Why do you day trade? Answer that question and you can start on the path of success as well. God bless. See you later. Bye now. Bye for now.